Okay. I want to welcome you once again for. I want to welcome you once again for your time. Uh, it's our prayer that this topic that we are treating will be of utmost benefit to all humanity, especially to our ardent listeners and seekers of the path of light. Um, Before we proceed, I would want to thank each and everybody for the time and the assistance that they've been giving to us all these years in prayer and in support to see this mission come to an end. And the mission or the assignment is much more bigger than what you are talking about. But for now, we stick to what you are doing. But we hope that going forward, people will come to understand the real mission and what we need to do as a people and why we are doing what we are doing. Because the truth of the matter still remains that the black man must wake up from the slumber, from the psycho enslavement. And all these things you are teaching is but just a fragment of what we have to know as a people. But yes, because these are things that we are abreast with, we are used to, and it sits down well with us. So if that is the case, then we have to teach people on how to deal with it and the proper way of harnessing its energy and intelligence for their collective good. That being said, there are higher knowledge, higher intelligences that surpasses all these ones. That surpasses all this mystical, magical, herbal thing that we as black people, we are totally engrossed in, and we find it very difficult to break away to go beyond it. So a lot of people are enslaved in this cycle of magical, miraculous, herbal concoction things, and it's kind of restricting the true greatness of the infinite intelligence which is beyond mind, which is within ourselves. And that is what we need as a people, as Africans, if we will want to change the narrative of our lives. So we'll continue on what we started treating in our previous session, and that is ways by which divinity or the supernatural communicates with humanity. So we are looking at ways or ways that divinity communicates with humanity, or the supernatural communicates with the natural. So we started looking at it. We tried to explain a few things in our previous session, that there's always a communication between the supernatural realm or the divine realm and then the natural realm or the human realm. And this communication must always be maintained if we are to make any significant progress in this physical dimension. And everything that we see happening in this physical dimension comes from the non-physical dimension. So the communication must always be there, whether it is science, whether it is invention, whether it is innovation, whether it's creativity, whatever thing you would ever think about that has been achieved in this physical dimension came from the non-physical dimension. Anything that has been achieved, be it science, invention, innovation, creativity, engineering, whatever it is that has been achieved in this natural realm, came from the supernatural realm. Anything that has been achieved by humanity came from divinity. That's why they say, as above, so below. Out of the invisible cometh the visible. That's what the church will say, or the scriptures will say. So, being able to harness and know ways by which the supernatural communicates with the natural, and the divine communicates with humanity, it's very important. So, as when you pray and the communication and answers to your prayers are being released, you can easily identify them and implement them. We talk of the fact that a lot of people have prayed about situation and they have mixed their answers, or they've gone past their answers because they don't know when the supernatural was talking to them about their natural problems, because they have no knowledge on how to identify when the supernatural is talking, or the ways by which the supernatural talks with the natural. So they have prayed for years, and then the answers come, and then they gloss over the answers. They couldn't identify them. They couldn't, take hold of the answers. And we told the fact that there's a tide in affairs of men, taken at a goal leads to great fortune, omitted on the void of human life is bound in the shallows and in misery. So that is the problem that people are facing. So people are praying all night, people are shouting, people are fasting, people are praying 24/7, as if there's no God that is answering our prayers, or there's no supernatural dimension which is responsible for the answering of human petition. Yet there is, because they are beings and entities, because they are spiritual governments. We call them the spiritual hierarchy. And as we are physical human government, which are responsible for human activities, so there are physical government who are so there are spiritual government who are responsible for spiritual activity, which through petition the natural puts before the supernatural. So there are different hierarchical governments in the realms of the spirit. Those who are in charge of material things, those who are in charge of building, those who are in charge of engineering, those who are in charge of health, those who are in charge of enlightenment, those who are in charge of knowledge, those who are in charge of spiritual knowledge, and all those things. So they are a whole structure of government, and there are beings and entities responsible for those things, and they have to communicate anytime the natural or humanity puts out a petition to that dimension. But the question is, how do you know when they are talking, or are you aware of the ways by which they communicate to us? And this is the missing code that is creating delayance or no answers in the petitions that we make through prayer to this supernatural realm or the divine realm. So having a good knowledge on how they communicate would help. So in our previous session, we talked about one of the ways that they communicate was dream. We talk about dream, and we have two types of dreaming. We have the conscious dreaming and we have the unconscious dreaming. Now, the conscious dreaming has to do with what we call astral projection. When you go to the Eastern world and all those places, they call it astral projection, okay, where you consciously put the body in a state of lucid dreaming, or put a state of conscious sleep that the soul can project to have inner experiences. That is conscious dreaming. And then we have the unconscious dreaming, and this unconscious dreaming, that is what everybody has it, okay, and that is when we go to sleep, and literally our body goes to rest. Our physical senses, our emotions, and everything goes to rest, and then our soul is able to project out of the body and then have those experiences. And I said that all these experiences are happening within our own intelligences, within ourselves, at different levels of awakening, at different level of consciousness. So once we are able to have these experiences, either in the form of conscious dreaming or in the form of unconscious dreaming, whatever it is, our spirits are awoke. And I told you that anybody that does not dream is literally dead person. It's a dead man walking, because the soul must have its own experiences at the time of sleep. That is the unconscious dreaming. And the conscious dreaming is where you sit down like this and you are conscious and aware, not asleep, but you can still make the soul project out and go and have certain mystical experiences. And that is what we call unconscious dreaming, and other people call it astral projection. Now, I also talk about that there are four categories. I put in four categories of this dreaming, that this unconscious dreaming, and we talk about the realistic dreaming where dreams becomes real, and whatever we experience in the dream happens in real life. These dreams are not in codes and symbols, and they are very clear in their means of communication to our persona. It's very, 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 very clear. There's no ambiguity. There's no symbol. There's no sign. There's no hidden codes in it. The communications are very clear. These are realistic dreams. And then we have the what we call the abstract dreams. And these abstract dreams are symbolic in nature, that we receive the dreams in forms of symbols and codes. So sometimes it might make sense. Sometimes you may dream that you are harvesting rice. Sometimes you may dream that you are harvesting ripe corn. Ripe palm fruit. Sometimes you dream that you are harvesting pawpaw, ripe pawpaw or green pawpaw. Whatever it is, these are abstract dreams, and these dreams comes in codes and comes in symbols. And because of its nature, you must learn how to decode it. So in our session, I try to explain some of the decoding procedures. For instance, when you're driving in a car, what does the car mean? If the car is moving, what does it mean? If the car stops abruptly, what does it mean for you to be driving a car and all of a sudden it stops? Or if you're driving a car and you see a policeman and your vision stops you, or somebody sitting in front of the car, what does this mean? These are all symbolic or abstract dreaming. Then we came to emotional and thought form dreaming, where your emotions and your thought forms transcends into your dream state. So how you were feeling and the things you were thinking about prior to your sleeping transcends into your dream state, and you begin to have that experiences. So when you watch an horror movie, that's why a lot of people have a lot of nightmares. You watch a lot of horror movies, and then at the end of the day, you find yourself having nightmares. These are emotional and thought forms are replaying itself in the dream, because the subconscious cannot play back most of the things that the conscious mind sends into it the last hours before it goes into the sleep state. So these are all, or sometimes you watch a romantic movie and then you end up having romantic dreams or dreams of sexual intimacy, and sometimes you wake up, if you're a lady, a guy, you spoil yourself, we call it wet dreams. And most of the time people attribute it to spiritual marriages, but not all of them are spiritual marriage. Some of them are just emotional and thought form dream. That means that's sometimes when people come to you with such kind of experiences, you need to dig a little bit down to find out some information with regards to some of the things they thought of, or they read, some of the book they read, or some of the movies they watched before they went to sleep. And this will inform their state of dream. Then we have the final one, which is we call dream revelations. And I told you that dream revelations most of the time happen to people who are connected to the inner light and frequency, and they are doing some form of spiritual practice. So for them, the kind of dreams that they have, when they have it when they have informations in the dream state, are direct informations. They are not mere dreams. They are direct information which is being communicated to them about specific issues that has to be worked on. And there's no symbolism, there's no abstract nature, there's no emotion or thought form in dream. It's purely a dream revelation. Then we talked about the fact I mentioned vision or transvision, and I told you that we are going to continue the vision or the transvision in our next session. So today what you're going to deal with is the transvision, and I want to take it one after the other, or maybe at most two, so that we can treat it very well. So today what we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about transvision. We are going to talk about transvision. Just a moment. We are going to talk about transvision and what transvision is, because transvision is another way the supernatural communicates with the natural realm, and it's very, very important because people have that gift of transvision. When you come into metaphysics, we call it clairvoyance, okay, having vision. We call it clairvoyance or clairvoyantic abilities, which is an extrasensory abilities that people do possess and people do have. And there are certain type of exercises, prayers, and practice that when you engage yourself in over a period of time, you begin to develop this extra sense perception, which is the clairvoyantic ability or the transvision ability. So we will be looking at what transvision is. So transvision, yeah, there are two words brought together. We have trance and we have vision. Okay, these are the two words brought together. So we realize that in scriptures, a lot of people had their information, they have their tests, they have their knowledge through trance. A lot of these prophets and spiritual adepts and a lot of these seers have their information through trance. Okay, so trance vision is very important in terms of divine communication to the natural realm or the supernatural communication to the natural realm. So we are going to look at what is the meaning of the word trance and what is the meaning of the word vision. For vision, we know is to see. So the seeing is in two ways. Either you are seeing with a conscious mind, or you are seeing with the unconscious mind, or seeing in the state of consciousness, or seeing in the state of unconsciousness. Now, to go into trance is to be in the state of partial consciousness. That is to go into trance, is to be in the state of partial consciousness, not being responsive to external activity, that or being detached or disconnected from external activity, and in the state of partial consciousness. That is what the state of trance is, so as you can perceive inner experiences. And vision is the ability to see, be it consciously or unconsciously. So when you put the two together, transvision simply means that to be in the state of partial consciousness or absolute unconsciousness, to be able to perceive and see things that are not yet in the physical or extended world. Because in the trance, you are disconnected from external reality. So visions that you see or things that you see in the state of trance are things that you are seeing detached of external activity. That means that they are yet to happen. So that is transvision. So when you pray or you do any form of supplication, one of the ways that answers can be given to you is through transvision. So you can go into the state of partial sleep or partial consciousness, or sometimes absolute unconsciousness, and then your inner eye will be opened, or the spiritual eye or the man's eye will be opened and begin to perceive things independent of any physical activity. So these eyes will be there, these eyes will be closed, will be there, will be closed, not blind, but yet you are seeing with another eye things that are yet to manifest in the physical dimension. That is why when you read the book of Luke, it says that for your eye is the light to the body, if your eyes be single. So there's another eye, which they call the spiritual eye, or let's call it the third eye. It is not an eye like literally the physical eye, but the way it is positioned and how it is structured, it looks like an eye, but it's a gland that is sensitive to energy and sensitive to intelligence. And that in art, those that we did art, we call it the third eye, or the mind's eye, or the creative eye, or the inventive eye. This eye makes you visualize, imagine, and see things that the physical eye don't see. And with the aid of this inner vision, we are able to create, we are able to innovate, and we are able to invent. Be it science, be it art, be it designing, be it whatever, it is this inner eye, this spiritual eye, this gland that gives us the ability to be innovative, creative, and inventive. And it is the same part of our vision that the supernatural can communicate to the natural man. Or in another way, it's a way that by which the divine forces can communicate to the human energy, so that the human energy will be receptive to the inflow of the cosmic current that is coming from God, or from the divine source, from the spiritual intelligences. So this is what transvision is. Now I want us to take the definition of Google. It says transvision refers to a type of spiritual experience where an individual enters a heightened state of awareness and perception, often involving a heightened awareness of the spiritual realm, while the physical body may be in a semi-conscious or unconscious state. In this state, the individual may receive insight, revelation, or see symbolic imagery. This is what Google AI is telling us. And if what is similar to what I am saying. So for you to be able to enter into that state of transvision, you need to go through certain exercises. And one of these exercises is fasting. And that is why at the end of every month, the last weekends of every month, you have designated it for fasting, prayer, and meditation. And this we are going to do for the rest of our lives on earth. So this is what transvision is. And you need to develop yourself to a certain level to be able to have these inner experiences. So as you pray, as you petition the universe, then the universe can knock you off, and then the revelation is given. And it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. Let's look to Luke chapter 22, verse 17. Sorry, not Luke, Acts chapter 22, verse 17. That the scripture supports what you are saying. Acts, where's Acts after John? Romans, we come to after John, we come to Acts, then we go to Romans. After John, we come to Acts, then go to Romans. Acts chapter 22, verse 17. Very soon, I have to get somebody who will open the scriptures and be reading for me. Acts chapter 22, verse 17. And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in trance. This was Apostle Paul saying. So to be able to catch revelation, you must be able to go into the state of trance, or must be able to catch revelation in the state of dream. So once you are in prayer and meditation, accompanied with fasting, if you do it well and intensely, you should have a revelation. And that revelation can come to you in the form of trance, or can come to you in the form of dream vision. Either in trance vision or dream vision. Either in trance revelation or dream revelation. And these are normal abilities we all have to make us receptive to the answers to our prayers, or to make us receptive to the way divinity talks to humanity, or to be receptive to the way the supernatural communicates with the natural. These are natural abilities that we have been given. And without spiritual exercise, without spiritual practice, without any form of spiritual activity, you lose out on these natural potencies that we have been given. And not all spiritual practices give you this potent. There are special spiritual practices that grants you these abilities and awaken these latent abilities which is embedded within you. Let's look to another scripture. Let's look at another Acts chapter 10 verse 10. Acts chapter 10 verse 10. And this was talking about Apostle Peter and Cornelius. But let's look from verse 9. It says that on the morrow, which is the following day, because it started from somewhere, as they went on to journey and drew nigh unto the city, so they were going to a city called Joppa. Okay, so when the day break, they were going to the city called Joppa, and then they continue. That is Apostle Peter. Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour, and he became very hungry and would have eaten, that means would have loved to eat. But while they made ready, he fell into trance. So you see where fasting comes in, where fasting helps us to be able to have this inner mystical experience. Because one thing about fasting is that when you fast, you see, it is the physical body. It is this. When I say physical body, we are not talking about this body. We are talking about the senses. When the senses are energized more, it enslaves the soul. So the soul is not able to have its mystical experiences, or the ether in the body is subjected. But when you fast, the senses loses its grip, loses its energy, and as the energy of the senses becomes depleted, the ether is able to rise. And the ether is a power within us. It's able to rise, so then you can have these mystical experiences. Because if you watch our previous session that we did about the 4 cardinal points, and the 5th one we talked about, which is not part of the cardinal point, but is the only power embedded in man, was the ether. And I told you that ether constitutes 4% of our persona, and it is this 4% that, which is the ether, that enables us to have mystical experiences. And mystical experiences is the experience that we are able to merge with the supernatural to be able to cash in revelation, or cash in a vision, or cash in information, or cash in answers to our petition or prayer, or whatever it is. So fasting helps to disintegrate the energy of the senses, giving way for the ether within us to rise up. And as the ether rises up, you're able to develop these mystical experiences, or develop these mystical propensities or abilities to have these mystical experiences. So rather, Peter was hungry, and then when they went up, he was praying at the rooftop, and whilst he was waiting for the food to be ready, he was caught up in trance. So you can see that several people had transvision experiences. Several people had transvision experiences. And anybody can have these transvision experiences. And this is what makes you have an opportunity or have an edge over your competitors, whether it's in business, whether it is in relationship, whether it is in marriage, whether it is in whatever you are doing. These abilities gives you an edge over your competitors. Because Okoba and Sawako, when they are preparing to go physically, you go spiritually, know what is going to transpire, have the information, rectify the problems, rectify the wrongs, communicate, and then before you go physically. So before you go there, you have already finished with the deal, you've already finished with the negotiation. This is how we need to live our lives. This is how we need to live our lives. But because you have not been taught how to do these things, then it becomes a problem. I'm talking about all these things. When we are done, we are going to have a session for the practice that will make you be able to harness into these intelligences. So we're going to have a session for how to induce dream, which of course is going to be a paid for session, honestly, but it's not going to be anything much. You understand? Something affordable. Okay, so that you see, when we put a price on the things we acquire, that is when we reverence it. Because in this world, there's nothing for free. When a life is given, a life is taken. Something must be exchanged in order for balance to be attained, so that nobody owes anybody a karmic effect. So there are going to be sessions for all these things. How do you induce dream? How do you pick information in the dream state? It's there. You'll be taught. How do you program your conscious mind to the subconscious mind in order to induce transvision state? It is there. That's how we all used to pick information. When you call me up and say, "Mister, this is happening," this is how I get information. And you have to know. So then when you categorize it, whichever session you want to participate in, you do your payment, and then the portal is open for you. Okay, then you go through the practice, and when you practice it, it does not fail, because people have used it eons and eons of years, and even in our generation, people have used it. So that is transvision. You need critically, because before adebechia obeye bibi no say adena adechimu nsem no, you should be able to harness it. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, do that. You have to get the information, either through dream revelation or through transvision. But I'll save the best for the last. Which is transaudibility. In metaphysics, we call it clairaudience. That will be the last I will treat, because that is the master key. That is the real deal itself. Yet the transvision, it's very necessary, because the transvision gives you a pictorial view of what actually is about to transpire. And everybody, there's nobody who has walked on the surface of this planet Earth and has been successful without a vision. How do you create physical vision, and how do you create metaphysical vision or metavision? These are normal things we should be able to have. And the kind of things, the metavisions you create becomes your reality, because the visions informs your thought informs your vision, and vision informs what you are forming or what you are creating. It was a funny, and that is our problem. This morning, we had a meeting where I was discussing with Apostle Moses with the rest of the team. That is the problem we have in Africa. It's not about the Tamil we are having. It's not about all these helps you are doing. It's not about the magic tricks and all those things. It's about the alignment of our personality. Because what you cannot see in vision, you can never establish. And what you can't see in vision will take you by the storm. And a lot of people's life are taken by the storm because they cannot perceive anything in the non-physical reality. Because you can't perceive the problem coming. Because you couldn't perceive it coming. Promotion back, because you are vision dead and dream dead. What you also not obi on no vision, no who identity identity now I bend the no waje ade ya odi na waje. So things that are your bona fide spiritual properties that are supposed to manifest in your physical reality for you to live a comfortable life, not in for edge, be forever. Witchcraft, one of the words for witchcraft means to bend. To bend. Something is straight like this, okay, and then you bend the thing. That's one of the definitions of witchcraft. That means to bend. So they use their witchery energy to bend your fortune. Things that are designed for you, because you are ignorant and you're not able to perceive that which is coming in your spiritual dimension. They bend it. They divert it. And you must be awakened. Oh, you can't credit your mom. You don't know pen magic, we call it skirmishes, eh? Oh, I don't understand. You're saying then answer rainbow aba, into rainbow aba, into people. What is rainbow? Rainbow, yeah, then you don't even understand the science of rainbow and the significance of rainbow. Into be yadena rainbow, but because Bible mono rainbow by my share never abontino, obi yadena rainbow by not so say I don't know yadiatu. Who told you that? Why the cast has a material? And a rainbow be Ghana last 3 months rainbow by. I think the beginning of the year also rainbow by. But what is the meaning of rainbow and what is the significance of rainbow? And when rainbow appeared to is it Noah? Noah the ark. Is it Noah built the ark? When the rainbow appeared to Noah, what was the significance of rainbow? They told us that when the rainbow appeared to Noah, it's a vision that Noah had. Okay, when the Noah had a vision of the rainbow that appeared to him, they said that it was a symbol that the God will not destroy the earth with water again. Isn't it? Now this is what happened. Before a rainbow is formed, you are all coming. This is part of the vision. God Noah saw the vision of the rainbow. Before a rainbow is formed, the sun rays, the sun's energy or the light energy permeates through a beam of water. When the light energy goes behind a beam of water and permeates through the water serves as a refraction point where the constituents of the light is broken into smaller spectrum of light. Because the white light you see is a spectrum of intelligence, and that spectrum of intelligence comes together, and there are 7 spectrum of intelligences. That's why we have the 7 energy centers. Now, what the 7 energy centers? The colors that represent the 7 energy centers form the spectrum of the rainbow colors, and these rainbow colors form the spectrum of divine light. So when the divine light is degraded through passing through the beam of cloud of water, it breaks down into reflected lights. Through refraction, it breaks down, and then the light is disintegrated. The spectrum of the beam of light is disintegrated into the various colors that we have. And that represents the shadow of the reality. So when Noah saw that vision, he understood the interpretations of vision. So when he saw that vision, conscious vision, and he saw it, he knew that it was a sign that the sun was emerging. Now, when the sun emerges, rain does not fall. So when the sun emerges, is the end of rain. So no one knew that the long hours of rain, the long days of rain that has fallen to destroy the earth has come to an end. And a new phase was beginning. Hence, the revelation that God will not destroy the earth with water again. Are you not here? Don't you see a flood in the system? If it was a promise that God will not destroy the earth with water again, why is still flood destroying other places? Those are theological interpretations. It was an information to Noah to tell him that the end of the flood at his place, wherever he was, has come. So the sun will emerge so that they can now go out there to a dry land. So you must understand the relevance of vision. This is a conscious vision. And then we have the trance vision. Because don't forget that before that rainbow came, I think Noah sent a bird, a pigeon, and it went and didn't bring up a branch. And then the next pigeon, when the pigeon went again, and then it brought a branch. After which then the rainbow appeared. Then the sun is coming. So the sun was permeating through the beam of water, because still there was water held up in the firmament. Likewise, let me do another scenario. When you put a bucket of water on the sun, and you get a mirror to trap the sun, the light radiation coming from the sun, and you face the mirror on in some way halfway in the water, and the mirror faces the sun. Okay, you can do this experiment. And the light from the sun hits the mirror in the trap water. It creates the rainbow colors. It creates the rainbow colors. You understand? So the rainbow colors is a shadow of reality. It is not anything spiritual, but it's a shadow of the actual thing. In one of my meditations, when I was trying to clarify, they told me that it is called the fragmentations of reflected light. Fragmentations of reflected light coming from the real light beam. And I think I went through, let me see if I can see it here. I went through they took me through some experiments to explain to me how the fragment, this is some couple of years back, months ago. Let me see if I can get it for you. Whilst we talk, I'll be working on it. So that is what it is. So you must understand the relevance of vision. And once you can understand it, okay, thank God it's so close. I wonder if you can see it. Let me see if you can see it. You see, this is what we have there. So this is what we have here. So it's on my phone. When I did the experiment, I had to take it. Just a moment. So that's it. I was doing meditation. I was trying to find out. So when they gave me the information in my meditation, and then so physically when I came back, they sort of go to the room, do this, do that for further explanation. So you can see that down here, you can see my second phone here. Okay, this the phone. I reflected the light to the dark screen, and then I use this phone to take the picture of the effect. Now when you watch here, you see this is the real light itself, and then over here there's the reflected light, the beam of light we call the rainbow. So you can see the beam of light you call the rainbow. Okay, you can see it. You can see the beam of light you call the rainbow colors. You see them. You see the red, yellow, green, and all those things. So these are the refraction of the light which is coming from here. So this is the shadow of the refraction. Okay, the shadow of the refraction which is coming from the main light. You see, so that's how rainbow colors are formed. You see, so it is not anything that we must understand vision, because these are all codes and ways by which the supernatural talks to us. And these are abilities within yourself, and everybody has the right to it. Everybody has the right to it. So when you watch it closely, you can see. You see, so over here you can see the reflected light around it. Okay, even around the circle you can see some of the reflected light, and then it has sent it a beam of light. You can see it in a beam of light here. So you can see the reflected light coming from this side, which are the beams of the rainbow colors. Okay, throwing us light here like that, and then the main light form is here like the sun. You get the whole thing. This is an experiment they took me to. I think it was around 2:30 a.m. when I was doing meditation there. I wanted to understand all these refractions of light and all those things, and then they took me, they explained it in my meditation. Then when I finished my meditation, they told me to go to the living room, get a dark screen, get the light of a torch, switch the light of a torch on it. So I used my first phone, and then I used the second phone to take the picture to explain how come all these things happen. So you must understand, and these are abilities that are there. These are abilities that we have, they are there. Now, the next one we'll be talking about is trance. We talk about transvision. The next one we'll be talking about is face-to-face information. When you pray and your supplication goes through, you must have an answer at all costs. Every prayer you pray, there is an answer. But it is you that you're not receptive to the answer because you don't know the ways by which the natural, supernatural, talks to the natural. And so now I gave you the first one, which is the dream. We talk about the transvision now. The next one we'll be talking about in the next session is face-to-face information. It's the face-to-face information. I want to take it one after the other so that we can get it in that sessions. It's the face-to-face information. Where entities and beings will manifest to you face-to-face. They can manifest in the form of a mad person, they can manifest in the form of animal, they can manifest in the form of inscriptions, but so many things, but face-to-face. And this face-to-face, people have missed out on their blessings. People have missed out on their blessings when it comes to this face-to-face information with regards to prayer, answers to prayers. Because sometimes somebody may come to you like a mad person, somebody may come to you as a poor person, somebody may come to you as a beggar. But if you don't identify and be smart enough to sense in the spirit that is the answer to your petition, you miss the mark. And I have had a personal experience that helped change my life. So the problem is not God answering our prayers. The problem is not the supernatural dimension being responsive to our prayers. The problem is our ignorance of receptivity to the answers and the response that they bring. To the answers and the response that the supernatural dimension. But every petition, there are energies and entities that has been designated to answer our prayers. There are angelic forces and there are other entities and energies who are designated. Some are placed here and some are in the celestial dimension that come to our dimension, and all in the effort of saying to our petitions and showing us the way to have physical liberation and also have spiritual liberation. That is all the work that they do. That's all the work they do. They are in to aid us in our earthly journey. But we must be receptive to their responses. When we petition them, we should be able to be receptive to their petitioning. And then Christ no bumpire, ready, this is, oh God, please, I want this, I want to do that, I want to do that. In Jesus' name, amen. The empire is gone. We are so much in a haste to leave the presence of the divine and not be receptive to information, to his response. Because prayer is two-way communication. You speak to the supernatural dimension, and the supernatural dimension must respond. Well, how can you call me and speak and cut the line? Then it's a one-way communication. It's anger. You are venting out anger or instruction or something. But if it is a communication, then it has to be two-way. You communicate to the non-physical dimension, which is the supernatural dimension, the divine realm, and they must communicate back. They must, and they do. But you are adamant and not receptive to their responses. And I also Robert will say, Abofo enanyame, ahonhom no muntie Bible. The spirits are always and always more than ready to be responsive to your petition. But we don't know how to be receptive. We don't know how to be receptive, and that is our problem. We don't know how to be receptive, and that is our problem. And once we develop the ability of receptivity, you realize that every single prayer is always answered. It said, whatever you shall ask, ye shall receive. And whichever door ye shall knock, ye shall be opened. And whatever ye shall seek, ye shall find. For he that seek findeth, and he that knock shall be opened, and he that asks shall receive. That means man is not denied any petition. But the problem is our receptivity. We are not receptive enough, and we don't even know the ways by which they respond so we can be receptive. And that is our biggest problem. And that is why I am taking the pain to teach this thing. And that's why I'm taking the pain to take it one after the other. So that we begin to identify the ways and the medium through which the supernatural speaks to us, so that we can pay attention and be receptive to this dimension of reality. That has always been there. I call it dimension of reality because it has always been there. But just that we are oblivion to it. And that is why it is necessary and imperative to be part of our spiritual exercise of the last weekend of every month, prayer and fasting, the spiritual fast. It's very imperative to pray. And this opens and cleanses you up. Opens up your aura and cleanses your aura to be able to be receptive. Because we are interested in building you and not doing things for you only. We do things for people, but we are interested in building you. Because when you do things for yourself, it is more powerful and proactive than when I am doing it for you, because I'm a third party. That is the truth, but they won't tell you. When you do things for yourself, it's more powerful and more proactive than when I do it for you, because I'm a third party. And sometimes we even need to seek permission before it goes. And that's why a lot of things people do for you, a lot of spiritual exercise people do for you, does not work. Because the amount of energy needs to be injected into it is heavy. But when you do it, it's within your spiritual domain. It's your right for the universe to respond to you. It's not in the right of the universe to respond to me on your behalf. We call it intercession or intercessory prayer or whatever, meditation. But it is not mandatory for them to respond. But it is mandatory for them to respond to you regarding your problem, and it is mandatory for them to respond to me regarding my problem. But there's a possibility of an intercession, and there's the way you go about it, which also do work, but not as powerful, as fast, and as easy as you doing it for yourself. That is the truth. And that is why I like to train people and teach people to harness the energy and do things for themselves. And this is what the church is not doing. And even if they are not doing it well. And this is what most spiritual people are not doing. Because you must always come to them because they have to make their daily bread. So we have talked about the transvision. You know what the transvision is. And everybody has the ability to harness this transvision. Everybody, every soul. But it is part of your divine nature. And you should be able to harness this transvision. It is there for you. The decision is yours to make, whether to participate in it, to harness your own energy, or to let it lie unused and unassessed and for you to become victim of circumstance, and for life to take you by the flood. There's a tide. There's a tide in the affairs of men. Taken at a goal leads to great fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of human life is bound in shallows and in misery. There's a tide in the affairs of men. Taken at a goal leads to great fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of human life is bound in shallows and in great misery. Do you want your life to be in shallows and to be in great misery? Is that what you want? Or you want your life to be a life of greatness? If you want your life to be a life of greatness, if you want your family life to be a life of greatness, if you want your children's life to be a life of greatness, you must learn not to omit this tide in your life. And the reason why a lot of people are going through pain and agony and misery is because they have lost this tide in their life. Because this tide is the only tide that leads into greatness, that leads into fortune, that leads into inner bliss, peace, and contentment. But when it is omitted, your life will be bound in misery, in pain, in agony, in complaints, in anxiety, in distress and pain, in struggles. And this is not what we were created for. This is not what we were created to experience. We are experiencing these things because we created this karmic effect for ourselves. And how did we create this karmic effect? We created this karmic effect because we omitted that tide that we were supposed to take at a goal. And as we omitted that tide that we were supposed to take at a goal, its rippling effect directed us to places that we are not supposed to go and engage in activities that we are not supposed to engage in, and then we begin to create a karmic effect that begins to tell us stories and unfold in such a way and manner that makes our life unhappy, filled with anxiety and distress and pain and struggles. And we can change the narrative, we can change the story. Having the adequate knowledge. And one of the most adequate knowledge you can have, or you should have, is your ability to be receptive, or to build your receptivity, to be responsive to the supernatural dimension when they are communicating to you. And one of them is having a clear dream ability, 2, having a transvision ability, and the third one we're going to talk about in our next session is having the ability to discern a face-to-face information. You can meet your angel on the way, and he has the solution to the problem you have. But he may present him or herself as a burden, as a liability, as a mad person, as a beggar, as whatever. Your ability to discern will make the difference in your life. So I just want to thank you for your time. I bring this session to a close. In the next session, we are going to talk about face-to-face receptivity, or face-to-face way of the supernatural dimension informing us or giving us response to our petition. I just want to thank you, and as usual, I bring to your announcement our end of month meditation exercise, which is starting from Thursday 6 p.m. This Thursday 6 p.m. Okay, because today is Tuesday, which is 22nd. So it's starting from Thursday 6 p.m. So on Thursday, you can eat any meal you want to eat. Okay, you can eat any meal you want to eat, and then 6 p.m. you eat, and that will be the last meal you're going to have. And then the next meal you're going to have is 6 p.m. the following day, which is Friday. And then the next meal you're going to have is 6 p.m. Saturday, and the next meal you're going to have is 6 p.m. on Sunday. And you are not supposed to, the meal you are supposed to eat, I repeat, you are not supposed to take anything that contains sugar, that contains salt, that contains pepper, and contains oil. You're not going to supposed to eat anything of that sort. And then when you want to break off your fast, you take things, fruits and vegetables that are more alkaline in nature than acidic. And then for a major meal, you can have a major meal. You can have coconut water with the fruit in it, and then put a little bit curry in it, and then add some peanuts, granite to it, and eat. If you are allergic to peanuts, you can take it out and then use the coconut fruit with the water and then the curry, and you eat it. If you want to cook a regular meal too, as I've said it in my previous video, please look at it on fasting, and then how to prepare a meal for a spiritual fast. You use the coconut juice, the coconut milk, you get a dry copra, you grate it, you blend it, get a juice out of it, and use the juice to prepare rice. And you can get some vegetables cut, and then put some this to some of it, and you flakes it, use it to mix it, and then you can use it to prepare a meal, and that's fine. If you want to use mayonnaise and ketchup, you must make sure some of them contain sugar. Okay, so you must read the label and make sure there's no sugar as an additive in it. And then, if you want, you can use it, but you can use the vegetables and then with the flakes, fish, tuna, or the tuna, you take the one that has no salt in it, and then the salmon or something. The flakes, it use it to mix your vegetables, cucumber, carrots, cabbage, all the way the lettuce and all those things, tomatoes, onions. You mix it all together, and then you eat it, and that's what we're going to do for the 3 days. After the Sunday, you break 6 p.m. and you eat. The following day going, you can do anything, engage in anything you want. Now during that period, you have to be satisfied in your emotion, your thought, and all those things. So there's no such, for those who are married, there's no sexual activities, romantic activities, and everything, because you are doing separation to build your spiritual ability. So you need to disengage or disempower your senses. So that is why you need to stay away from all these things. Stay away from quarrels, stay away from fighting, and all those things. And thought cleansing or thought purging is to make sure you don't think evil, conceiving evil thoughts, evil ideas, and all those things. Emotionally too, you need to cleanse yourself emotionally by not engaging in emotional affinity and all those things. And then the fasting itself cleanse you physically of toxins, and then you have your alignments gradually building up, and then you get there, be able to develop all these propensities which are naturally and endowed to every human being. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless you. So I'll be expecting your participation. In the end of month meditation exercise, and we hope when you're having your testimonies, you can bring your testimonies to us. When people are having wonderful testimony, they are sharing with us, and we may compile them and use it as a point of encouragement, not to lure anybody, but to get people encouraged to build their spiritual life. There are other things we need to do along the line, some cleansing exercises and all those things, but preparing those cleansing items are very difficult, so I'm a little bit listening, but auto helps and actually boosts, because it cleanses your aura, so it boosts your vibration faster. So, but let's see how it goes. Maybe probably for this session I will not be able to provide those cleansing materials, but the next session I will make ample time to get the materials and do prepare the cleansing perfumes and all those things. Then we use it for our bath and all those things. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Stay blessed till we meet the next session. We are going to talk about face-to-face information that the supernatural realm communicates to the natural realm. Stay blessed, and God be with you.